Welcome to High Vibe Finds, the podcast. This is where I share my conscious take on pop culture and the human experience, plus a few intriguing stories that just might redefine your reality. My guest today is actor, writer, and content creator, Samantha Lammert. Welcome, Samantha.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Before we dive into today's insane stories, I have 3 cosmic questions for you. Ready for them?
I'm so ready.
What is the most inspiring quote you've ever heard?
I think there's a lot of different inspiring quotes. I'm not going to say that at any given point in my life, this is the one that speaks to me. But as of this moment, as of this week, I think about that quote from Harry Potter where he just goes, "How wonderful it is to be with friends." Sometimes I'm sitting with my friends. I had dinner with one of them last night and I was just like, wow, forgot how good it is to have like human company sometimes and just people who love you.
That's great. Yeah, because we are often very siloed in our own little worlds. And until you sit down with someone and stare at them across a table, you forget that you can interact with people in real life.
It's right over a bowl of spaghetti is like the most meaningful like human interaction.
Love that. So number 2, if you're super stressed, which action would you take? Hit the gym, cuddle up with your cat, meditate, or medicate?
My favorite thing to do whenever I'm stressed is just go, "Come here, boys," and lay in my bed. And I would like for my cats to come and cuddle with me. They do have a mind of their own, and they're like, "You want something?" Absolutely not. So while that's what I want to do, what I end up doing instead is the next morning, punching the ever-loving life out of a boxing bag. Because I box, and I've realized over the course of the last week while my boxing gym is like closed down that I think that's how I get through the day. I'm jonesing a little bit to beat up a bag. That's how I get my stress relief.
Well, at least it's not beating up a person.
Oh my God, could you imagine?
That's great. So number 3, which of the following phenomena is most likely real? UFOs, time travel, psychic abilities, or Bigfoot?
I am fully under the impression that UFOs are most likely real. I don't think there's enough evidence for it. I'd be happy to talk about it. But psychic abilities is already absolutely real. That was just a trick.
Cool. Most of the stories I'm going to share today are from Reddit. They include relationship advice, am I the asshole, am I overreacting, plus a few bizarre ones. Now the last story is our hot topic of the day, which is all about the allure and possible dangers of fantasy novels. Ready to dive in?
I'm so excited. Let's do it.
We're gonna go boom. We're gonna go.
Am I the asshole for labeling my food in the fridge after my roommate kept eating it? I, 24 male, live with 2 roommates. We generally buy our own groceries, but we share some basics like milk and condiments. One of my roommates has a habit of eating other people's food by accident. At least that's what he says. At first, it was small stuff like finishing the last bag of chips or using the last 2 eggs. I didn't make a big deal of it. But recently, it's been happening more often. A few weeks ago, he ate an entire takeout meal I had saved for lunch the next day. He apologized and said he thought it was his. Last week, it happened again with leftovers I had specifically packed for work. So this weekend, I bought groceries and put small labels with my name on all the items. Now my roommate is annoyed and says labeling food makes the apartment feel hostile. He said we should be able to trust each other and not treat the fridge like an office kitchen. I told him if my food would stop disappearing, I wouldn't need labels. He thinks I'm overreacting and making things awkward in the apartment. Am I the asshole?
I'm going to tell you right now, you are not the asshole. I do feel like the most hostile thing in that apartment is someone else eating my Panda Express takeout. Are you kidding me? I've been the person who has labeled their food in the fridge. So if you're the asshole, I'm the asshole, but I don't think you are.
What I always think about is if you're looking forward to something and you're getting psyched for, let's say, leftover pizza or whatever you had the next day, you're like, that's going to make a great snack or a great lunch. And then you go in there, whoa,
silly
the cat is there.
He's over here. They saw attention and they were like, for me, don't touch it. Please don't touch it. He needed his 5 seconds of fame. Continue.
Oh, no worries.
I'm so sorry.
Whenever there's leftovers in the fridge, like let's say pizza or whatever it is, and you're looking forward to it, there's nothing worse than going in there and seeing, hey, where did it go? It's gone all of a sudden. And then you think, What happened? Did I eat it and forget about it? And then your roommate, oh no, I thought it was mine. Really? You thought it was yours?
There's no way.
My first instinct here, from a high vibe advice kind of way, is to reframe the label narrative, because OP's roommate is definitely feeling called out. I know I would. So to take the sting out, he could tell his roommate that he put the labels on the food as a communication tool. He didn't mean any disrespect. He wasn't being petty. He just wanted to make sure that he clarified which food was his. You know, like I said before, you know how it is. If you work up an appetite for something, let's say salmon, and then you go to heat it up and poof, it's just not there. That's frustrating.
Right.
OP could say that he didn't want to feel resentful or bitter towards his roomie. Also, he didn't want his roommate to feel bad for eating his food, so he put the labels on. But you've obviously had no problem doing that, right?
Well, in my defense, I was 18 at the time. And
Okay.
I think the way that I had done it was my roommates and I mean, we were all like, it was our first apartment outside of the dorms, and we were fighting over the price of soaps that we were buying. Like, I bought a soap that was $2. We split the cost for that. They bought a soap that was $8, and I said, I am not paying that. Absolutely not. I'll give you $2. And they were like, no, but the soap I bought was $8. So I just started buying all my own things and putting the labels on it because I was like, I'm going to protect my finances, of which don't exist, because I obviously have no money. And so it did become a little hostile after that. I'm not going to lie, because they were like, well, why are you labeling your food? Why are you labeling your food? But at that point, you could just say, like, at this point in age in my time of life, I literally am the psycho who writes down what I'm going to eat the next day in my to-do list, so I don't forget to eat, which sounds dumb. But like in that case, you could just be like, I'm just meal prepping. I want to make sure I know exactly what it is that I have that I need to cook. And so I'm writing my name on it so that you guys know this is what I'm cooking later this week. And then say like, oh, I just forgot to actually prep it, but like I'm gonna eat it today. Like there's so many different reasons why you could be like labeling something that doesn't actually have anything to do with judgment and ridicule to another person. I think that's the internalized feelings that the roommate is feeling. If you're feeling some type of way based off of what somebody else is doing, that means that you already had feelings about what they were going to be doing, and you know that you're in the wrong.
The first comment says, he is the one making things awkward by stealing. Tell him the alternative is for you to keep an accounting of everything he takes, with a 50% markup for shopping and hauling it home.
That's crazy.
Obviously that's going to make it all.
crazy.
Talk about hostile home environment, right?
Yeah. Took it to a 10.
So another one says, thieves who get caught always try to deflect blame onto you. You're making me feel like a thief just because I stole from you, not the asshole. I mean, this next one is actually not terrible. This one's like more like a high vibe-ish advice. It says, tell him you would love to trust that your food would be there when needed, but lately it hasn't been. Tell him it isn't hostility, only you trying to help each other out. By putting labels on your food, there are no accidental eating of food that doesn't belong to that person. It goes both ways. I mean, you could say that, sure. You know, a high vibe living is about abundance, but that doesn't mean that your fridge is a free-for-all. Because it means having an abundant level of respect for each other's resources. Maybe OP could reorganize the fridge and give his roommate a dedicated shelf. Maybe there could be a community shelf where all items they agree to share are stored. It sounds silly, but sometimes we have to do silly things in order to keep the peace.
I mean, it's just like a bathroom sink. Everybody gets their own side.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep it fair.
Now, I would not have a problem if my roommate would have eaten some of my food, if they asked me beforehand and I said, yeah, go ahead, I'm not going to eat that. But, you know, like most people, if you just go there with the expectation to find half a salmon roll and it's gone, that's where the problem is.
Yeah. We just happen to ironically buy the exact same takeout on the exact same day and plan to eat it the exact same time. Like, there are some inconsistencies there.
I have major exams coming up in a few weeks, the kind that determine my entire career path, and I can't focus because my father is having an affair. My parents have never had a good marriage. I've literally never seen them show love to each other. It's always been verbal abuse and constant fighting. My father is the sole breadwinner, and he uses that to control and disregard my mother. He shuts her out of every monetary decision and treats her with zero respect, which has made my mother cynical and contemptuous. She absolutely loathes my dad and speaks ill of him whenever she gets a chance. I've spent years wishing they would just get a divorce. I've talked to my mother about it at length, but she's terrified of society and what people will think, so she stays and suffers. Recently, I found evidence that my dad is cheating on my mom. On top of the years of toxicity, this feels like the final straw. I want to scream. I want to tell her, but I also have these exams that will change my life. If I fail, I'm stuck in this house and this cycle for many more years to come. If I pass, I have a way out. How do I shut my brain off? How do I stop caring about their mess long enough to save my own future?
That's a lot for a kid. I mean, I'm 25 and my parents are getting divorced, and that's wild for me.
They just recently, right now, that happened to you?
It's correct. Yeah. I mean, they're in the process of getting divorced. Similar situations, actually, to our OP. But at any age, seeing that dynamic of the people who raised you and who our society tells us they're supposed to know better, like when you see that breaking up, it is a little difficult, especially if you're going through your own stresses. So, I mean, I would definitely say I'm feeling for OP. I get that.
Yeah.
You can't help people who don't want to be helped. That's the hardest part, is if your mom doesn't want to go through with things just because she's afraid of what outlying sources would say. You can't help her in that situation. You kind of got to let her make her own decisions, even if they're not decisions that you would agree with, which is heartbreaking because you don't want to have to be the adult in the relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, you got to help yourself.
Well, I absolutely agree with that. I have not experienced anything like it, but I can empathize with OP. I mean, he's trying to pass his test so that he can have a career away from his parents and all this drama, but he feels for his mother and what's going to happen to her, so naturally he's distracted. The whole situation calls for the oxygen mask principle. So OP... I was
thinking that exact same thing.
OP needs to remember what we're told. In case of an emergency while we're flying on a plane, you put your own mask on first before helping others. So he can't save his parents' marriage. It looks like it's already been over for a while.
Right.
Can't even imagine how horrible that must be to see disharmony all the time. I have an ex-girlfriend who she used to watch her parents fight when she was growing up. And more or less, it wasn't even the explosion of anger that bothered her the most. It was actually the passive aggressiveness she would witness all the time. Like they would just sit down for breakfast and, the dad would be, here are your eggs. She's like, can you pass the salt? Fine. So she's just like, at one point she told me, she yelled, just get a divorce already.
That was me as a kid.
I mean, if you see it. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
In that same realm is that, I'm sure that she at that point was like, is this what I should be basing my relationships off of? Is this what the ideal concept of love looks like to me? If it's not, then how do I have a healthy ideal? How do I have a good role model? What am I supposed to be looking for? How are people supposed to treat me? I mean, I've gone through all of that. And you also get to that aspect where you have to sit and think, well, now I'm breaking the cycle. If I don't want to end up like them, I have to choose what it is I want to do. And how do I figure that out for myself? In this situation, I think it would just be letting go of them and realizing you have to take these tests again, because he did say or they said, the only way to get out of the house is to pass those exams. So you just really have to think about breaking that cycle. Yeah,
I absolutely agree with that. I mean, he can be there for his mom emotionally and maybe eventually financially if he passes the test and gets his own career. There's a lot of issues where a parental figure, usually the father, will hold the money over the head of everybody else.
Right.
And that's obviously what he's feeling too. That's why he's thinking, I've got to make my own way. Here's my ticket out of here. But first I got to pass the test and not let this distract me. So here's maybe a mantra he can think about. This is their storm to weather. I am just a passenger right now. I'll deal with the wreckage once I land. Hopefully he'll be able to land. And here's another point I was thinking, another plane analogy, so to speak. He should establish a no-fly zone. If his father or mother reaches out to him with all of this cheating drama, which probably will happen at some point, he needs to set an immediate boundary and tell them that he loves them both, but right now he's in the middle of finals and his brain is at full capacity. He has to focus on what's in front of him.
I like that. I like the no-fly zone. I was like, wow, that's a really good one. Because, I mean, that's an easy metaphorical way of accepting boundaries for someone who maybe doesn't know how to set boundaries. You know, if you're growing up with this as like your parental figures, I'm sure you don't know what healthy boundaries look like. Learning what they look like, learning how to set them. It's really difficult to say the sentence, please respect my boundaries, you know? So having a no-fly zone, oh, I wish I'd had that growing up. I wish I had.
Everybody needs a no-fly zone when it comes to certain things in life because, you know, especially when you live with someone, whether it's a parent or a girlfriend or a wife or even just a roommate, like we mentioned earlier, their dramas are eventually going to spill into your life at some point because that's just how we are. You know, we get emotional and we get in a mood. And so therefore, someone's going to bring something to the table and maybe even take it out on you. If you happen to be in a good place, you might go, hey, you know, let's just take a step back. What's going on with you? Why are you so hostile right now? And they might be like, oh, you know, this something happened at work or something happened here and I'm just kind of in a bad mood. Okay, yeah, talk about it. Kind of put it on the table and talk about it. Other times, though, if you're not in a good place to respond to this type of situation from, let's say, a roommate, you'd be like, look, I'm in the middle of this project right now. I really just, I got to go back to my room and get to work. I can't really indulge in all this. That's that no-fly zone concept.
And it's hard because, like, sometimes people are like, that's rude. And it's not rude. It's just saying I can't handle it right now.
Right. Yeah, boundaries and respect. And that is the thing. I mean, you know, I could tell you that as Irish, my wife always says, like, I'm an extrovert and she's an introvert. So there's a really good balance there. But that means sometimes, like, if there's conflict, sometimes we'll deal with things differently. Yeah. And I will want to talk it out, but she might need some space. She might be, you can almost say a little more cat-like. The cat's like, you know what? I'm going to go over here. I'm going to sit in the corner. I'm going to do my thing. Don't bother me. I'll come back to you when I'm ready. And that can be hard for someone like me who wants to just kind of talk about it immediately.
You guys are golden retriever and black cat. Like, the duality.
Maybe.
There.
She does have black hair. Yeah. She does say I'm a golden retriever. She does sort of say that type. I think so. So now children of cheating parents, they always feel a sense of responsibility for their mother's pain or their father's choices. But as you said earlier, he is not his father's keeper and he's not his mother's emotional bodyguard. So he should just focus on himself, maybe do some meditation or box breathing, something like that, just to help center himself. Because I know how much stress it can be to try and study for something and have drama in your life. So I do feel for him. Hasn't happened to me exactly that way, but I feel for him because you can see when someone else is stressed and when they're sensitive. I am sensitive to stress. Yeah. I can, like, if I sense major disharmony somewhere around me, like with a coworker, a friend, I don't like to let that sit. It's like hard for me. I want to be like, okay, hey, what's going on? I feel like you're giving me the cold shoulder. Let's talk about it.
I think it's what you're describing is that you're an empath. I feel that way sometimes too. I used to be really, really sensitive to other people's emotions where you just pick it up a little bit. I think you might be an empath.
I have to ask Iris what she thinks about that because she's done my my Myers-Briggs profile and all that stuff. Yeah. Yeah, and hers too. Actually, she'll have to tell me. Tell me the names, Iris, real quick. I'm an ENFP and she's an INTJ.
I don't know what I am. I don't remember. It's been years since I took that test. I think I would have to take it again as an adult and see what I am.
But it's really funny you say that because when I was younger, my parents they took the family to Washington, D.C. We used to live in the suburbs of New York. So this is the first time we were at one of those restaurants that overlooked, I don't even remember, like the Washington Monument or something, you know, in D.C. And I noticed this man sitting alone at a table. And I immediately said to my parents, hey, that guy seems lonely. He seems sad. Let's invite him over to our table for dinner. And my parents were like, what? No, that's not what you do. He's just a stranger. I'm like, he seems sad. He seems like he just would like company. So I eventually went over to him, just talked to him for a few minutes. Anyway, it turns out, I don't know who exactly, but this was a senator. Some U.S. senator was having dinner alone in this restaurant. No wonder he's got all the stress of the world. But then my parents had to explain to me, you do not just invite strangers over to your table. And
I do.
I didn't understand why. What are your thoughts?
There's a difference between being nice and kind. I think that that's kindness. You're seeing somebody stressed, maybe having an emotional moment, and it's not necessarily wrong to invite a stranger to your table. Not every day, like maybe not everybody needs to be invited, but I do think that sometimes that changes the course of a person's life. Like my grandma used to be able to get someone's entire life story in like 30 seconds. There's things that you can do that are kind for strangers. I don't think that stranger danger necessarily is in the time span that we're at right now. Definitely not every stranger. But if you can sense something off of someone, I think that's important to recognize, because there is human connection with others that you don't necessarily know. I always say I've never met a stranger. Like, yeah, you can go up and you can invite him over, and I'm sure that probably made his day. And then that also teaches him a little bit about how to have empathy for others as well.
Yeah, to vote for healthcare next time for everybody. I do believe that we all emit an energy, some bioelectric field. Some people call it an aura, but we can sense this. I think almost everybody has had a moment where they're in a crowded room and all of a sudden someone walks in and either they have this really dark energy and you just kind of turn around and go, what is that? Or the opposite, some really bright energy. You turn around, oh, who's that? It's just, that's when someone's really dialed in with their emotions and it's just pushing into the room. And people can sense it. They don't even have to see it. I've many times sensed it without even looking. And then I turn to verify at some point. And you go, what is that? Oh, okay. So yeah, I do think that's kind of what you were talking about. There's an intuition that we have. And so yeah, you can get a real sense of somebody from just their energy, their vibration, how they interact with people. Sometimes it's as simple as a smile. If they smile and you see in their eyes there's a light there versus some people who are, let's say they say sociopathic, the light is not there, right. And maybe there's just like a facade. It's really awkward. I've seen people who could be that, and you're always just like they don't know human emotions, so they learn how to mimic human emotions, and a lot of that is just like smile, like robotic. This is where I'm supposed to nod.
It's almost like
really
plastic, like you can tell there's something intrinsically false about it, but I don't know, I'm like holding it up like it's a smile. Like there's something intrinsically false about it, but you can't fully pin your finger on it. Like I definitely have
My best friend is blaming me for injuring her back while pole dancing. I told her it's her fault or the instructor's, not mine. Am I the asshole?
This is so funny.
I'm a firm believer in technique and building your strength before progressing into advanced tricks. Not enough people focus on using their body in the right way and can end up injuring themselves. Home training, instructors with no real merit, and so on create a huge problem for pole dance students. I'm not saying it can't be done right without certification, but I have seen so many bad things. A newly minted instructor at my studio had never been taught to pull her shoulders down in spins, and thus never taught it. She'd been poling for 2 years, started teaching level 1 courses as an instructor, and didn't know of one of the most basic things. So many people focus on the cool, beautiful tricks, but never learn how to do them properly without undue strain to the body. My best friend took a pole class last week from this instructor, per my recommendation. Towards the end of the class, the instructor encouraged her to attempt a diagonal split martini butterfly, which if you don't know, is not a beginner or even an intermediate sequence. Consequently, she lost grip and crashed to the floor, injuring her back. She's blaming me for sending her to an incompetent teacher, even though I only learned of her improper technique after this happened. I told her that she shouldn't have tried such an advanced move, and that if anyone is to blame, it's her or the instructor, but not me. Am I the asshole?
I fully agree with the OP. You are not the asshole. Okay, so I don't even know what a diagonal martini split is, but I'm imagining what it is based off of what I know. Because I'm assuming it means that you're going upside down in an invert with your legs out, and then a martini meaning that you're probably dangling with one arm into a split. Like, that is really difficult to do. First and foremost, I will say this. My first ever pole classes that I took, ever, they did say, so I guess I'll show you, like, this is how you're supposed to hold the pole. It's not supposed to be like here. Your shoulders are supposed to be down because, again, you are going to injure yourself regardless of what you do if your shoulder is up. I mean, maybe not like immediately, but over time you can build a little bit of strain. So that is the instructor's fault. Wholeheartedly. That's the instructor's fault. However, why are you doing something without a crash mat? Full stop. If somebody was like, I want you to jump in the air, hold yourself upside down on a pole. I know you've never done this before. Do the splits in the air and then, don't fall. I would be like, can we have like a mat on the ground? I would love to not crash my head open. Like, there are so many things that this person should have asked for before attempting something. It goes back to also what we said earlier about boundaries. Like, you have to be able to know yourself, to know your boundaries. If I injured my wrist at a boxing class that I took because I got class pass that my friend recommended I get, and then I blamed my best friend, that just wouldn't even make sense. I feel like that's kind of comparable to this situation. There's so many things like just the general you know that you should not be doing.
Recommending a class is like suggesting a hiking trail.
Right.
So if a storm hits or someone wanders off the path, the person who suggested that trail isn't the cause of the storm or of them getting lost in the woods.
Right.
OP may have provided the door, but she didn't push her friend through it. Her intention was pure regardless of the outcome. Blame is a wall that she's putting up, whereas empathy is always the bridge. When OP's friend blames her for the injury, she's building a wall to keep the guilt, which I believe is mostly hers, out.
Yeah.
But it's also keeping their friendship out. So she should encourage her friend to stop trying to decide whose fault it is and start focusing on healing. I just think in this particular case, you don't really know if the teacher's qualified. You assume they are. In this particular case, I don't know the details more than what I've read to you. I don't know if like doing that spin move, you needed your shoulders in or whatever that was, and therefore that's what caused her to fall. I don't even know if there was a crash mat. I mean, I'm assuming it would break the fall, but I've seen rock climbers do bouldering where they're just trying to go up like the side of a boulder.
Yeah.
And they have a bunch of mats down there just in case they fall.
It still hurts.
It's only like, it still hurts, yeah. Maybe only be 10-foot drop or so, but if you land on your shoulder, that could be really catastrophic. It could knock all kinds of things loose. Surgery might be necessary. So any injury can be bad regardless of all the protections you have. In this case, it does look like it's her friend who's just thinking, I can try this. It looks really cool. Maybe the teacher did it and it looked cool and they tried it. But now how is that ever, her friend's fault?
Right.
What, is she going to sue her now for this?
That's the thing too, is I think where you had mentioned like maybe she's putting blame up as a wall. I think it's also embarrassment. There's also a level of like, oh shucks, this thing happened, but my friend can do it. Like, let's not forget that pole dancing is a sport. It is a sport. It's extremely difficult to do. I know a girl who I did a movie with where she was recommending to all of the people that we were around to do YouTube University. Just watch some videos, get a pole of your own, you'll figure it out. And I respect that. I am a nervous Nelly and I would really like to be able to have somebody tell me what it is that I'm doing wrong so I can make sure I'm doing things right. I believe in building a basis before moving onwards. They say you have to have 10 classes at a certain level. I'm going to take 40 before I move onwards because I'm very, very much an anxious person. But at that point, it's still a sport. You still have to train. I don't think that I would ever be able to, where I am right now. I was told today by one of my friends, I'm the athlete in our friend group. And I went, that is so nice because I am not an athlete. I was like, okay, I feel good about myself. But imagine I'm told today by my friend, you're the athlete of our friend group. And tomorrow I go and say, I'm signing up for the Olympics. Like, that's a big jump to make. That's a really big jump to make. You have to remember this it's a sport and it takes some time and it's not really anybody's fault what happens in a sport. You are a different body. You're a different person. You're in a different day, a different headspace, a different physical space than anybody else who came before you was in or is training you in. So I think that really there's no, again, comparable situation that she can put herself in. I think realistically, it's just a level of blame and embarrassment. As friends, we'll have to move past this and say, okay, well, maybe pole dancing is not in our friendship's future. Maybe we don't ever do this again together. How about we read a book instead? Let's go to lunch.
Reminds me of several things that I've fallen victim to, which is first was handwriting. I know there's this way you're supposed to hold your pen, and I just kind of held it differently, not like this, but not really properly. And I could see everybody's handwriting was getting better and mine wasn't. And it took me years before I realized, oh, I'm holding the pencil wrong and nobody told me. And same thing with guitar, because you're not supposed to, when you hold a guitar with your left hand, if that's where the neck of the guitar is, you're not supposed to have your thumb sticking up. If that's not proper technique, although keep in mind, Jimi Hendrix used to flip his thumb over, and that's part of what made him sound unique. But for most people, you're not supposed to do that. Yeah, he is so cool. But for most people, you're not supposed to do that. And for other reasons, sometimes it's about like it tires your wrist out. So I didn't find this out till years later. Someone just said, hey, your technique, you should probably work on putting that behind the neck. And I'm like, oh, yeah, 5-6 years later, I'm just going to do that. We all learn certain things and we get into these habits, for better or for worse. You sound like a person who really would go out of your way to make sure that you do it right and build from there.
I try.
Yeah, but you try. You seem like you're more like maybe asking to have somebody give you feedback so that you can figure out what is the right method and the right technique so that I can do this longer without getting hurt. In fact, I'll bring up just triggered a thought. The Dodgers recently won the World Series, and one of their pitchers, the star pitcher, who I think he got the MVP of the entire World Series, he is a Japanese guy who was a decent pitcher when he was like coming up. He was good enough for the Japanese teams to look at him and bring him in and meet with him, but they sent him to this one trainer and said, "Hey, you assess him, give us some ideas." And that trainer looked at him and said, You're never going to be amazing unless you really change your form in a whole different way. You got to start from the ground up. And this guy, to his credit, said, "Okay, I've seen that you have some success with other pitchers. I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to try that." And he redid his entire form. One of the theories is that instead of having all of the strain on one muscle, like in the case with OP doing the pole dancing, it's not, if you don't have your shoulders in, maybe that puts too much strain on the rest of your body. This is all about just evening out where the strain goes. I can't remember every part, but all along the arm, all along the body, the legs, and therefore he can pitch for way longer and be stronger for longer. So I think it's interesting that he did go back and start from the beginning and got to that level that is undeniable.
I will say, first of all, that's brave, because once it's difficult as a human, and with this day and age as ego, et cetera, to say I'm at a certain level and someone is giving me feedback that maybe I don't need to take, but I could. Listening to someone else, realizing they might know better than you, and taking that and revamping your entire training is really bold, first of all, but also brave. I mean, I would like to say I'm the kind of person who could do that, and I don't know that I would be. Back whenever I first moved to California, I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, I don't have any contacts. I don't have a job. I don't know any people here. I don't have any friends. There's no linear way to start an acting career, especially in California, especially after going from a different time zone. So I was really a little stuck, and I just kept saying, God, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to start this. I don't know what to do. And then I realized you don't know what you don't know. And that stuck with me for a while. I said it once to one of my friends, and I was like, hey, I think I was really kind of smart for that. And I just keep saying it all the time. You don't know what you don't know. So if you don't know it, how are you supposed to figure it out? How are you supposed to figure out the next steps? That's why it's so important to take feedback. It's so important to ask for help. It's so important to try different avenues of different things. That one player who actually said, hey, you might know a little bit. Even if it's just minusculely, you might know something. I'm willing to try it. He probably never would have gotten to the level he is now if he hadn't said, maybe I should. We don't even use most of our brains. We don't know what's out there. The ocean, so undiscovered. We only know 5% of the ocean. To be able to say, I'm not aware of a lot of things, but my mind is open, I'm willing to learn, I think it's difficult to put those words out there and to sit in that headspace. And especially in the time that we're in the society that we're in the educational mind space that we're in.
Very well said, and I happen to agree with you a lot. Open heart, open mind, go into everything with a curious mind. And
look at us building bridges.
I'm going to read you one comment before we move on. Pole dancing is an incredibly fun and beautiful sport, but like every physical activity, you have to nail the basics before trying advanced tricks. Your friend should have known better. It's her responsibility to realize the sequence is beyond her current abilities. She is to blame for the accident, followed by the instructor, but to a lesser degree. Not the asshole.
I was in a class last week. It was actually the class before I saw you guys the other day where we were trying a trick and I nailed it. It was like an easier, like beginner level trick. But then I saw somebody else do that, but a little bit cooler. And I went, oh my God, how did you do that? And she was like, well, I just did this. And I went, I'm going to try it. And she was like, no, I promise it's taken me like months and months and months to figure this out. And I was like, let's see what I can do. And I like tried it and I immediately fell. And I looked at her and I went, you're really cool, and I think I gotta work on that one. I think that was not it for me. Then you have to like recognize that maybe there's people at different levels than you, and you're not always gonna be a star on day one.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody
Right.
takes their own journey, and it's one step at a time. The finance manager at my job mistakenly sent an Excel file with everyone's salary to a public work group. Now I want to leave. Am I overreacting? Picture this, a random afternoon at work. Most communication channels are crickets, and you get a random notification. It's from the finance manager. What could this be? I download the file and experience the shock of my life. I can see everyone's salary, including increases over the years. Several people making 2 to 5 times my salary and getting 30% raises regularly. I was beyond shocked and I froze for almost 1 hour. When I asked for a raise, I got a silly 4%, yet several people got above 15%. I literally built fundamental tools for this organization, and I am generally a high performer. I haven't been able to get over it, and I feel disgusted since waking up daily to working with inefficient people making 3 times my pay. I'm putting this on the internet so I can look back when this situation has been resolved and I get to work with a fair employer or become one myself.
That ending sentence. Honestly, I loved that they said that. Do we know the demographics of the OP by chance?
You know, a lot of times they'll write their age. I didn't see it in this
Yeah.
post. I don't know their age, but I mean, if they've been there for years, I mean, you would have to assume they're probably in their 30s, but you're saying maybe they could be younger and they're just being taken advantage of. I don't know.
Well, I actually was thinking while you were saying that was there are incompetent people who are making like 30% raises. Maybe OP didn't ask for a raise. Maybe it's that kind of situation where the boss says, you're willing to come in and ask for a raise? What's your asking price? And you say it and they're like, okay. 4% versus 30% makes me feel like maybe the coworkers are men and the OP was a woman. We know that there's obviously like a wage difference between men and women, even in 2026. So in my head, it was like 30, 40-year-old men working who were getting like a 30% increase, who were consistently getting paid higher raises than me if I was, regardless of my age, whether I was like 45 or I was 28 and I'd been working there for like 3 years or whatever. If I was a woman and I was in that situation, I would absolutely be livid. I would be shocked. I would feel disrespected. What I would do is I would actually go to the boss and say, why the discrepancy? I would like to be paid the exact same if I'm doing the same amount of work. And if I was then told no, then I would quit. I would see if I could get a job somewhere else, or I would again start my own company. I think they were very smart in that last sentence, very thoughtful, very open-minded in regards to they weren't being malicious. They were just saying, this isn't okay, and I don't feel good about what's going on here.
I'll read you a comment here. Someone wrote, sunlight is the biggest enemy of shady pay practices. The second numbers hit, everybody suddenly realizes how much BS they've been fed. Expose them. Make sure every other lower paid employee sees this and responds accordingly. Then look for a new job. Another comment says, ah yes, us suckers thinking it's too taboo to discuss salaries. It's impolite. That attitude needs to stop with this generation. No company is your friend. Start getting applications out there. If you've helped your current company become more profitable, make them bid for you to stay. Let's play a little high vibe, low vibe here. What would be your lowest vibe, knee-jerk reaction response to this? If you're the employee, you see this, you go in the next day, and what do you say to your boss?
Lowest vibe, go into the boss, say, what is going on here? Why the disrespect? And probably like scream quit, like rage quit, I guess you could say, would be the lowest vibe. Like, because at that point, I feel like in the lowest vibe, you're not listening to what they're saying anyway. You're just in such like a red haze that you wouldn't be able to understand. You know what I mean? Even OP said they sat there for an hour in shock. So I think lowest vibe, you go into the boss, not the next day, same day, and you scream quit and you rage quit and you yell at them with the door open in front of everybody.
Okay. Now, another low vibe I just thought of is, because I've heard of a friend doing this, is you semi-sabotage the systems you created. You kind of like go in there, you unplug like a gremlin, unplug a few of those software connections, and now they're like, I can't get this to work. All the interest in my product, whatever it is, right? If they built systems, let's say it's software or something, like to automate, to make things more efficient, it's like all of a sudden all the leads are not forwarding to the sales department. And then there's quiet quitting, which I don't really think that helps here anyway. Quiet quitting is just, you're just checking out, but you're just going to still accept it? No, that's not where it is. The high vibe response is to, as best you can, separate worth from pay. The most important thing to realize is that your salary is a reflection of the company's budget and their negotiating skills, and yours, really. Yeah. It's not a reflection of you and your human value or even your talent. So OP, just because a diamond is sold at a garage sale price doesn't make it a piece of glass. You are still the diamond. The buyer just got a lucky deal. Now that you know that, it's time to move on and remember to be much bolder the next time. Demand what you're worth. Being bold and being brave is like one of the big things I think we need to learn while we're here on this planet. You know, this is OP's new mantra. I am grateful for the skills I've built here, but my energy is too valuable to be undervalued. So thanks for the memories.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, just never let being underappreciated or undervalued affect your self-esteem, because there are going to be people who are going to try and undervalue you throughout your life. And like you mentioned, as a woman, yeah, I don't understand. This gets into a much larger conversation, but I don't understand how, if two people are qualified despite race, religion, or gender, why does one ever have a thought of getting paid more or getting paid less for the same performance? Now, if it is a different performance, no matter who you are, I do believe that performance should be valued. For example, baseball players get paid whatever it is, $20 million a year because they have averaged, let's say, 40 plus home runs. Okay, well then maybe you need to say, if you don't average 40 plus home runs, you don't get this part of your pay, because why are you just paying them a blanket fee to just go out there? There's been a couple players I'm not going to mention in baseball who just go out there and suck after they get that mega deal. And you're like, what? We just have no recourse? You're just going to collect this money and not even live up to our expectations? Yeah. So that's where I think performance matters. And that's where, someone, despite gender, despite race, despite anything, whoever is performing the best should get paid a little more, I think. But
yeah. I really liked what you said about worth not being attached to monetary value. Like, I think we spoke about this the other day. We are in such a greed mindset as a humanity and as a country right now. Like, greed is so rampant amongst everyone. I mean, from ages like 6 to 100, everyone is money-based mindset. And it doesn't mean that you're not valued. It doesn't mean that you're not important. It doesn't mean that you don't have the most fruitful life or that you don't have surplus of loved ones who... Are you wealthy because of the money, or are you wealthy because of the life you live? And I think that's something here where if we take that high vibe, is this what's important to you, or is this just a part of what's important to you? Yes, we all obviously have to feed ourselves and we have to live, and like housing rates are going up, and I've got 2 cats that need to eat before I eat, like I've got to pay my student loans. But at the same time, I can live my life happily without a lot of other things that money would fund.
I saw this quote somewhere. They said, If money is all that makes you happy, or you think that's all that makes you happy, you're never going to be happy. You're going to, till the day you die, you're going to be trying to get more happiness by pursuing more
Right.
monetary gain. So I really believe that abundance, a true like cosmic abundance, is something that involves love and fulfillment and connection. It's not just money. Like money can help you do things. It can be an energy to help you, buy certain elements like, let's say, a car or a house or other goods. But that's never what makes anyone happy. If so, why would people who are that rich some of them seem to be the most
Right.
out of alignment with humanity?
It can bring you things that you would like. It cannot bring you joy.
Years ago, I had a 1-week fling with my girlfriend's sister, and she doesn't know about it. Will everything blow up if I tell her? I, 39 male, started dating my girlfriend, 29 female, in December, and I really like her. Last weekend, I was invited to a barbecue at her parents' house and met the whole family, including her sister, who is a 35 female. When I saw pictures of her family together on Instagram, I didn't recognize her sister because she's changed her hairstyle and dresses very differently. But once I met her in person, I recognized her immediately. A few years ago, I won a week vacation in Portugal. I met my girlfriend's sister at the hotel, and we connected extremely well on a physical level. We had a great vibe the whole week, going to the beach, going dancing and drinking at night, and having sex for 6 days straight. We kept in contact for a time through Facebook, but later on she deleted her profile and we stopped interacting. When my girlfriend introduced me to her family and her sister, I froze for a moment, and I could see in her eyes that she noticed me stuttering and stammering. Her sister and I both acted like we never met before. I could see her glancing at me from time to time, and I have no doubt it's the same girl I spent time with years prior. Same name, same voice, same smile, and same tattoo. Must I tell my girlfriend about this? If I was her, I would want to know. But I also think it might hurt her to know. That's what I fear the most. I've talked to my best friend about it, and he says I should never tell her. But instead, he suggests I reach out to her sister and talk it over with her. So the question is, should this guy tell his girlfriend? Should he reach out to his sister? Or should he just stay quiet?
God. Well, the friend is a bad friend, first of all. Terrible advice. Absolutely terrible advice. I'm going to say this. That's an accident. That's not your fault. That is a weird karmic change in the universe. I have definitely read romance novels like that. But at the end of the day, I don't think that would wreck the relationship because he didn't know the girlfriend before he knew the sister. Like that's the element that you have to remember. If he had already been dating the girlfriend, I would have been like, we should just kill him. Like we could just kill him. Because he didn't know, that's not his fault. That's nobody's fault. I think he should just tell her. If you have an open, honest conversation with this person that you're in a relationship with, that's your partner. Like just let them know, this is really weird. I feel really weird about this. I'm quite uncomfortable, but this thing happened and I want you to know about it. And I don't want to talk to her until I talk to you. Because you're the person I care about and you're the person who I want to build something with. So you tell me how to proceed. And if I need to do some groveling, I will. I feel really weird about this. Because at that point, I mean, you're prioritizing your relationship. You're prioritizing your partner. You're being open and honest and communicative. If he went to the sister first, say this was, I have a sister relatively my age. If somebody slept with my sister before they slept with me and then they talked to her about it before they talked to me, I would be livid. I'd be livid because it feels like there's like almost like cheating going on. That gives a cheating vibe.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be okay with that.
You really, first of all, really honed in on what a lot of people are saying in the comments, and actually very good thoughts on this. Yeah, first of all, here's the first comment. Do not go to her sister under any circumstances. Your friend who suggested that is an idiot. Tell your girlfriend that years ago...
Break up with him.
Yeah, really? What are you saying? Go to this... Anyway, your friend who suggested that is an idiot. Tell your girlfriend that years ago, you had a fling with a woman who you now realize is her sister. It was only for a week, and then it ended. It was a really long time ago, but you want to be honest with her. You and her sister aren't close friends. You don't really know each other. It would be weird and inappropriate to reach out to her. Tell your girl right away unless you want to get dumped or divorced, because no healthy and long-lasting relationship is built on lying or withholding information pertaining to sleeping with their sibling.
Sleeping with their sibling is like,
Yeah, right?
That's the thing is once you realize that's your girlfriend's sister, the second you start to think about discussing it with her versus just going and discussing it with her, that becomes an omission. And that's still a lie. That's still you hiding it. Like, if I feel like you're hiding something from me and I don't know what it is, even if it's just because you're not talking to her, but you're not talking to me, I would still think, like, why don't you feel safe with me? Why are we doing this if you don't feel like you can come to me about something like that? If we can figure this out together, I don't know. That's exactly what a relationship should be. Things get messy. Things get messy. We can find a weird fix to this if we need to, but at the very least, we need to have a conversation about it.
Absolutely. Now, here's the funny thing. There is an update.
Oh, I need to know.
Today, I had lunch with my girlfriend and gathered the courage to tell her about me and her sister back in the day. I feared that maybe her sister had already told her, but it turns out she didn't. I tried to just state what happened in the most factual and brief way possible, and that even if she had a couple of pictures with her sister on Instagram, I didn't recognize her before meeting her in person the other day. Thank God she believed me, but I could see how it was progressively affecting her the more we talked. She ended up crying about the fact that it even happened, and it completely broke my heart and made me feel extremely guilty. I know I'm doing the right thing by not hiding it, but I'm devastated that it hurt her so much. She started asking a lot of questions about how many times we had sex, if I enjoyed it, if I felt something for her after that week, how many times we had messaged each other, and if sex was better with her sister. I lied and told her I don't really remember that much about it. It was just a vacation fling. She seemed worried about emotional attachment, but I have none, and I'm certain her sister would say the same. To make things worse, it turns out that her sister is going through a divorce, which has created a rift in the family. I can't help but feel like a villain, even though I believe I did the right thing by telling her.
Yeah, that's the thing. You don't have to have actively done something wrong to be the villain in somebody else's story is a terrible thing to say, but you don't. I'm sure I'm the villain in so many people's story, and I have so many villains in mine as well, and you don't have to do it intentionally, but I do think probably the hardest part of that update is that the sister didn't say anything to her either. Being the person who has a sister in my age range, if my boyfriend had slept with her and she did not tell me even after she clocked it, I would think maybe he's lying because she is like withholding something. Did they end up having a conversation before this? Who do I trust? Because if he came to me but he was scared to come to me, she never came to me. Is she ever going to come to me? Like, there's so many nuances with that because it's family and family is messy. But God, I really feel for that girlfriend. I really do. That's got to be terrible.
Here's a comment, a high vibe comment I read that I really like. Continue with your relationship. Make her feel loved. Cook for her. Care more about the present than the past. If she asks too much, tell her you told her the truth because you are an honest person, but that the whole ordeal is in your past. Talk about her and the future. Make plans. Travel somewhere new for you both. And stay in the moment. So now, I really like that because, generally speaking, high vibe or Zen advice would be to stay in the present moment. Live there as much as possible. Focus on what matters now, not what happened years ago while on vacation. So I think that's a particularly good point. I believe in the law of attraction. So if I were OP, I would ask myself why he attracted this situation into his life. What lesson was he trying to teach himself? Was it a lesson on honesty? Was it emotional consideration of a loved one? How to balance family dynamics? There's usually something in there. And again, it might have been an unconscious situation, but wow, what a crazy coincidence. You go halfway around the world, you meet a girl, you have sex with her for 6 days, fast forward 5 years, And now you fall in love with her sister? It's like a movie plot, right?
Mhm. It honestly, yeah. I've definitely read romance novels like that. I liked what that high comment said. I have this author that I read a lot of books from. Her name is Helena Hunting, and she just came out with her newest book where the main character, he's a reformed playboy, and the other character, she was a virgin until she met him. And there's all this contemptuousness now in the relationship of, why did you pick me? What makes me different? Am I as good as the other ones? Am I not as good as them? Where is the differentiation? And it's kind of like the sister with the ex, or with, not the ex-girlfriend, I'm so sorry, the sister with the girlfriend, in that he had to tell her, anybody who came before you doesn't matter. It's just us. You are my future. And to have to be able to say that to someone, to say, listen, nobody else before you matters. You are what matters to me. That's what the boyfriend should be doing in the future. He should not be paying attention to the sister, actively keeping some distance between the two of them. Let her figure out her divorce thing. Obviously, she's going through some stuff. But to make sure that the girlfriend knows that she is the future, she is the present, she is the only one that matters. And maybe that was the meaning behind that. Maybe there was a part of the relationship that he was sort of losing his grasp in. Maybe he wasn't actively trying as hard. He was like, now that we're dating, I'm not going to put on as much effort. And this was just a sign of like, listen, you want this one, you need this one, this is your future, this is what you need to put your energy into. Maybe that was the vibe. But even if it wasn't, I think that that lesson that he learned from it, she probably is learning as well, is that she now is the priority.
Yeah, well said. I like that. That's great.
Thank you.
Now let's cross the threshold into the somewhat bizarre.
I would love to.
So this is from the Glitch in the Matrix category on Reddit. This is called Cat Glitch. I walked into the bedroom to look for my cat since I accidentally left the door open. He was under the bed, as I suspected, so I shook a bag to get him out, thinking he'd run out of the room. Instead, he ran straight into the closet, and once he did, the door slammed closed behind him, which shook me. It was so loud. So I opened the closet door to get him out, but he wasn't there. I checked every corner. When I walked back into the living room, he scurried out from under the couch. There was no way he could have gotten out of the closet and into the living room without me seeing him, especially since opening the closet door made the bedroom door close. How do you explain this? Is this a glitch in the Matrix, or did my cat travel through a portal?
That's not a cat. That's a familiar. I hate to tell you that. That's not your cat. That is a familiar. That is also a witch. Like, there's no way. I mean, I fully believe cats are liquid. I fully believe cats are liquid. My cats know how to open doors and cabinets. And I mean that full-heartedly. Like, they do get inside of cabinets, they get inside of doors, they open them by like pawing them open. But I've never heard of a cat going from a closet to under the couch, unless, what if they built like a little kitty door in the wall? Like, it's just like that, it's like a tunnel, like underground. Like, I can only imagine that would be the only way to do it, unless they're a familiar, unless that's not a real cat.
I've heard of these stories. There's quite a few of them on Reddit in this exact category, where the cat is seemingly getting from one place to another, like teleporting or skirting dimensions. So a lot of people get really interested in this. And I'll read you one comment. Someone says, cats don't glitch. They walk the universe and all its shortcuts fully conscious, which explains why they get so frustrated with us mere mortals.
Yeah.
Another comment, this one I think you'll really relate to, says, my cats appear in locked rooms upstairs that are never opened and appear in the living room from the kitchen, even though the door is always closed. I've wondered about crawl spaces, but I don't think they could access it that easily. Let's just face the fact that cats are interdimensional. And yes, we are simply can openers to them.
This is going to sound a little bananas for a second, but I'd like to put this out into the universe. I know that people think like, oh, dogs are the best, yada, yada, whatever, dogs. Have you ever seen that movie, Dogs versus Cats? It's like back from like the 2000s, where it's like the cats are like spies and the dogs are spies and it's like assassins. Like, I have had cats my whole life. I've got 2 boy cats right now. I'm fully under the impression that they have come up with this narrative themselves to make us think that they are lazy, quiet, shy animals that can occasionally get aggressive. So we leave them alone because everybody's like, oh, cats, like you could just leave them home for the weekend. If you like leave, like a dog, you can't leave home for the weekend. Cats will feed themselves. No, cats want you to think that because they're doing some crazy shit. They're doing some crazy. They're not regular. They're not regular at all. Like, I think full-heartedly, there is something going on when I leave the house. And I don't know what it is because I never catch it on my cameras because they know that I look at the cameras, but they're not regular. Cats, even in Egypt, like they were seen as like goddesses, you know, like they're like lions and tigers and panthers. Like they are the kings and queens of the jungle. Like they're the kings and queens of the safari, like Sahara. The kings and queens of the Sahara? I don't know what I'm saying. They are some of the most intelligent like creatures that we currently have still living on Earth. And now they have neutralized themselves into this like non-threatening 12-pound fluffy little bug to make you think that they are harmless and they are shy and they are quiet, and that is a lie. And I'll never be able to figure out what exactly they are. But it's not a cat.
I'm going to read you, because I did a little research on this, I'm going to read you 3 ways that cats are considered high vibe. So the first way, a cat's purr isn't just a sign of contentment. It's a biological healing mechanism. Cats purr within a vibrational range of 20 to 140 hertz. Medical research has shown that frequencies in the 25 to 50 hertz range are therapeutic for improving bone density and promoting the healing of tendons and muscles. When a cat purrs on your lap, they are essentially acting as a living, breathing heating pad and vibrational healer for your body. Now, I'll say that a friend of mine who's actually been on this podcast with me twice, he says, because he's a cat guy, he's a cat daddy. Yeah. And he says that the best thing for him is when he does meditation while the cat's sitting on his lap. That way he gets their purrs and it's like an om. So what are your thoughts on that one first?
Well, that's absolutely true, first of all. When the motor is running, I never feel better than that in my life. Like I've also seen studies where you know how like sometimes like there will be like organizations that will take dogs to hospitals to like hang out with like any sick patients, things like that. There are also nursing homes where they have people who bring in cats, and the cats just lay on top of the patient's like chest, lay on their lap, like, and they are scientifically proven to live longer. Like they're able to like sustain themselves even in the stasis that they're at, whatever illness or like age that they're at, they're able to live for a prolonged period of time from what they originally were told because of the cat's motor running. Like also that they can sense it. I also think that maybe your friend's cat knows that he's meditating, and so they then sit on his lap, because first I could be 2 rooms away and I could be extremely distressed, and one of my cats will come up to me and he will literally sit on top of me. He will lay on and he'll be rubbing all over, and whether he wants to or not, that motor will start running. It is intentional and it is definitely therapeutic.
Yeah, once again, they sense your energy and they come over. It's some energy kind of concept there. I like that. So Number 2, cats are masters of the present moment. Unlike humans who often leak energy by worrying about the future or dwelling on the past, a cat exists entirely in the now. Whether they are intensely watching a bird or falling into a deep sleep, they give 100% of their focus to the current state. Observing a cat can help tune your own internal clock back to a state of mindfulness and calm.
Oh, God, that's so true. I've never thought of that before. You ever seen a cat play with a laser? Like, that's the epitome of being in the present moment. Like, I know they play with that laser a million times and they still are like, I'm gonna do it. Like, this is my moment. This is my time to shine. Like, absolutely, cats live in the present moment at 100% of the time, 100% capacity. God, we could learn a lot from cats.
That's what we're figuring out here. We can learn a lot from cats, right? You mentioned Egypt, so number 3 has a little bit to do with that. In many ancient cultures, most notably in ancient Egypt, cats were revered not just as pets, but as protectors of the home's energetic space. High vibe philosophy suggests that cats are sensitive to stagnant energy. Have you ever seen a cat suddenly zoom through a room or stare at a corner? Many believe they are actively clearing the vibe of a space, moving stagnant air and refreshing the household's flow of chi or life force.
That's really funny because I have an orange and a cow cat. And I often am like, what are you on right now? Like, what is the purpose? And that makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense because every time that happens, it's usually because I've been sitting down for a while and all of a sudden, like, I just thought they were crazy. But that's something to think about.
We had tons of rain in SoCal this past week, and I didn't know where my umbrella was. Then I remembered I'd kept my daughter's childhood umbrella. She's 51 now, so talk about nostalgia. And I wondered if I still had it. I looked all around the house and figured I didn't have it after all. A couple of hours later, I walked in the door after shopping, and there was the umbrella, lying on the floor next to my bed. It's like it materialized out of nowhere. I've actually been thinking that my dad, who passed away in 2015, might be messing with me. Little stuff happens here and there, but the umbrella thing really got to me. It would be just like him to pull pranks. Does anyone have any thoughts on this? Is this a glitch in the Matrix thing, or a ghost thing, or something else?
I believe in a lot of things. I believe in everything. I don't know if there is like a heaven or a hell or whatever, but I do believe this. I think the ones that we love are still here, and they're maybe looking down at us, maybe as just like a part of the ether. My mom believes very strongly that anytime she sees a cardinal, that is her mom. Anytime she sees an eagle, that's her brother. And she sees them frequently, and they always come like right whenever she's questioning like a big decision. And she's like, maybe I should do this. And then she'll see a cardinal. And we're from St. Louis. So like, I mean, you don't always see cardinals, even in St. Louis. It's kind of wild. It's a rare bird to see. So, you know, she wholeheartedly believes in that. Like, those are signs. And every time it happens, she goes, thanks, Mom. Anytime we see a feather falling from the sky. I feel warm sometimes when I'm trying to make a decision, or if I am undergoing something stressful, or I'm feeling anxiety and I'm like, God, I wonder if what I'm doing is correct. And then you just feel like a sense of like warm, like wash over you. I think the ones that we love have a way of looking out for us. And I think that they also like to play jokes on us. It's got to keep things interesting. I mean, I would be playing pranks on people all day long if I was just somewhere. There has to be a level of mystery to it. Otherwise, we would be able to prove that there is something going on. But I do think the universe and the ones that we love have like a way of bringing things to us, a way of sensing when we need something and when we need to feel a sense of something.
I love that. That's great. Yeah, definitely I believe energy continues, because I think it was Einstein who said energy can never be destroyed. It just changes form.
Yes.
So I believe that we are energy, and that, you know, this is just one experience. This is just us as humans. And a whole other thing to that, but that we're here to learn through conflict, through contrast, you know, to try and find our most high vibrational self, all that. But relating to this story, you know, I actually read something similar in a different story where someone wrote a comment saying that the explanation is ghost presence, which is presents, meaning that there is a ghost or an entity in the house who likes to give gifts to the person that lives there. And in this case, since it was a very specific personal gift, it could have been her father. But that's like where people have gone through things where they go, I don't know what's going on. I'm like sitting at my table, then all of a sudden, like I see a bunch of coins. I'm like, I don't have these coins. I don't even, this is like, you know, Chinese money. I don't even have Chinese money. And then, you know, somewhere else to go, all of a sudden I see like a beret. I don't use berets in my hair. So that's what they call ghost presence. And it's possible there's an element there, and it does connect back to her theory of it being her dad.
It's really cool.
Hot topic of the day.
Ooh.
What can fantasy novels teach us about how to navigate our current reality? And are there any dangers to indulging in the fantasy genre? Now, since you've read a lot of fantasy books, I thought, who better to explore this topic with? But before you answer that question, let's narrow the parameters a bit. In the grandest fantasy epics, from the wizarding world of Harry Potter to the Rings of Power, there is almost always a chosen one, a single individual marked by destiny to carry the weight of the world. We love these stories because they give us a hero to root for, but they also plant a specific seed in our minds about how change happens. In our real lives, we often find ourselves looking toward the horizon for a savior figure, whether that's a tech genius, a revolutionary, a spiritual figure, or a political leader, to step in and fix the systemic glitches of our modern age, or perhaps to just help us cope. It's a comforting thought, but it raises the question of whether we are participating in our own lives or just waiting for the protagonist to arrive. So do you think the chosen one narrative helps us by giving us heroes to look up to? Or does it hurt us by making us wait for a savior instead of taking actions ourselves?
That's a really good question. I've read a plethora of fantasy novels, and there are a couple that are like maybe not the best written. I enjoyed them, but they weren't written as well as they could have been, in that they were sort of just waiting for somebody to help them the entire time, and then that encourages you to become a victim and like almost like the Princess in the Tower type vibe. But in my experience, the books that we're thinking, the chosen one is also done by chance. I mean, Harry Potter, he wasn't necessarily the chosen one. It was because somebody heard that prophecy, spoiler alert, somebody heard that prophecy and said, oh, that's Harry. When realistically, it could have also been Neville, and Neville's life was drastically changed also. It just so happened to be that someone thought it was him, so it became him through this change of events that multiple people put into action. So it was really the choice that was made for him. It wasn't him growing up to be this character where he was the only one who was able to do it, yada, 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 yada. In Throne of Glass, in AITA, this is a character who maybe, yes, has had certain aspects of fantastical elements, and maybe there was someone who advocated for them on the other side of this fantasy, and they were just an ordinary person until they weren't. But because of those choices that were made and because of the way they acted upon it, they became this entity who then was able to fight and had that drive because of the other people in their lives. And there is a book series, Fourth Wing, that's really popular right now. And that main character, she was never intended to become a warrior. She was intended to become a scribe. She has a weakness in her bones and in her body where she is almost disabled to a certain extent. She's not the same kind of physically abled person that everybody else in the novel is, which just means she has to find other avenues for herself. And I think that's such a strong impact on how it is that anybody could be a protagonist. Anybody is the protagonist in their own life. I was talking to somebody recently about the new Hunger Games book, Sunrise on the Reaping. And I have not read it yet. I'm very excited to read it, so I hope this doesn't spoil anything for anybody else. But Haymitch was supposed to be the original Mockingjay. It just so happened that the course of events at that time were not set into place. He was supposed to be the original Mockingjay, and things just fell apart. And so he thinks, okay, well, this is never going to happen then. The revolution is a failure, yada, yada, yada. And then Katniss and Peeta were an accident. I think a lot of these are accidents, but they're the stories that we're getting told. Harry was the accident. Violet was the accident. Aragon was the accident. All of these things are accidents, but they're the stories that are being told. So we're assuming that they're a chosen one, but realistically, they're just taking control of the path that was put in place for them by multiple different avenues, happened by chance. I think it's a very powerful tool to tell people that your life is your own journey, and I don't think that being complacent is how you would live your life. But again, it all depends on how you read it.
Yeah, no, I was going to say what you said about Katniss from Hunger Games and Harry Potter. What I do like about both of those two is they kind of fall more into the classic hero storytelling in a good way, in the sense that they really don't want to be the hero. They're
right.
Like constantly going, look, make someone else do it, have them do it. This person's better at this. He's a better military leader, or this person, Hermione's better at spells, whatever it is. But they end up just recognizing they have an impact. There's a lot of scenes. Again, I'm talking about the movies. I've only read 2 of the books of Harry Potter, but I do remember like that scene. Great example when I think it was the 3rd book / movie, when Harry Potter sees across that like pond that someone cast a spell that knocked away all the Death Eaters. And he's just like, it's got to be my dad. It's got to be my dad. And then when he realizes it later, that's not my dad. I don't know when he knows, like, I have to step up, or he just sort of stepped up desperately, but he was the one who did it. And that's such a great, like, kind of lesson for us all. Is that if you're waiting around for another hero, for someone to save the day, when you actually have it in your own ability to do it, that's what is a profound point that is made in that scene.
I was at the Warner Brothers studio tour in London. And by the way, did you know that that stag that they have in the film, it's actually an Irish wolfhound that they just put Christmas tree lights on and antlers.
What?
Isn't that a wild thing?
Yeah.
Oh God, I was shook to my core when I saw that. But going off what you said, I don't think that Harry even knows what it was in that moment, that moment of realization, whether it was desperation, whether it was just submission to his fate, he probably doesn't know himself. There comes a time in our lives, everybody's life, where you just take action and you don't necessarily know why you're doing what you're doing or how you're doing it. You just do it. It's innate in all of us. At some point, you just know that, like, oh, this is going to happen. I think there's a scene, I don't remember which movie it's in, maybe it's the fourth one, where Harry drops his wand and then Voldemort picks it up and all of a sudden his wand, like, sticks up to it. It's a great metaphor for just having that fight in you, even when you don't think you do, or you don't know how to go about it. That's what I really like about fantasy novels, is that it is true to life. No, we don't have dragons. We don't have wands. We don't have spells or magic or this or that. But we do have a fight in us, and we all have our journey. And for God's sake, like, I have, like, battles in my own life. Like, Harry's battles and trials and tribulations, we all have those. It just looks different from his. We're still pushing past it. I mean, Dementors are a metaphor for depression. We're all working through certain things, and we have our different avenues of doing it. It's just, that's why in books, any book, I mean, even in romance novels, you have your hero and your heroine. And that's what they're called. The female main character is called the heroine, and the male main character is called the hero. Because even though they're not going on a fantastical adventure where they're slaying monsters and riding dragons and casting spells, they are still on their course of adventure, and they're fighting for what means something to them. It's a really great way to find confidence in yourself, to find your drive, to find your passion. I actually only started, like, boxing and going to Renaissance festivals and pole dancing because of fantasy novels, because I really wanted to be strong and capable like the people I was reading books about. Like, I just had this thought one day, and I remember writing a letter to my friend, an actual physical letter, because I'm a crazy person, in the mail, where I said I wanted to be strong, and I wanted to be capable, and I wanted to be powerful like these heroines that I'm reading about all the time. So I took action, and I started taking these classes so I could feel strong and feel it in my body. And now I go out in the world, and my friends call me the athlete of the group, and people call me confident and powerful. And that's how I find my strength. And it's all about finding the strength in the things that you want in your life. I think, again, it's all a metaphor, but I think it can only teach you positive traits. It's just what you choose to do with it.
How can ordinary people who don't have magic powers or massive platforms, in the case of some of today's celebrities and tech CEOs, how can they still create high vibe change in their own lives and in their own communities?
Realistically, I think it's just what we said earlier about cats and being present in every moment and in the interactions that you have with people. Because if you're creating that high vibe energy and you're creating these action-packed moments, it's because you're living. Like, I mean, yes, I do spend like several hours a week in my bed reading books, but I also am going out into the world and I'm taking action, and I walk on the street and I go to my job and I submit for acting jobs and I meet new people, and having those new interactions is what changes everything for you. So it's interacting in your space, in your kinesphere, and with human beings, being fully present like cats in that moment. I think that's what we can get from these fantasy books, because the difference between them and us is that they are being forced to be present because there is a fire-breathing dragon directly in front of them, or a Death Eater casting a spell, or a deranged capital saying you're going to fight other, like, teenagers to the death. Like, you're put in a life and death situation where your choices are fight, flight, or flop. And you want to be able to have that option to take in every aspect of your everyday life. I want to be able to say I fought, I flew, or I flopped in anything that I'm doing in my life. And that's what it's really about, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it always starts with creating harmony and synergy within ourselves and with our friends and our loved ones. From there, it's about exploration of the mind and the soul. But all along the way, lead with empathy. Like we said earlier, have an open heart, have an open mind, be creative, be curious. Creative expression is a great way to align with your higher self, I believe, as well as reconnecting with nature. These are things I often do. And whenever I feel like there's just too much stress, outside pressure, whatever it is, you just go inward and then you go for a hike. Something like that, just to get away from all the crazy stress. So another question is, do you think that diving into fandom is a way to hide from modern stresses, or do you think that fantasy stories give us the mental resilience that we need to face the real world? That was one of my questions, but I know you pretty much answered that. You do believe, for you specifically, it made you want to do things to improve your strength.
Well, I will say both. Believe it or not, I'm actually quite shy on the inside. For years and years and years, I used them as an escape because I was rather shy and I didn't know how to be confident and powerful in my everyday actions. And there was a lot that I was really insecure and nervous and anxious about, and I still am. And so I would use that as a way to find comfort and be like, I could be like that one day. And then I woke up one morning and I just said, I'm going to do it myself. And now I find that it's given me the confidence to take that on the outside. So I think both are true. It just depends on where you're at in your life and who you are and what it is that you're doing at that current moment.
So fantasy writers have to build entire worlds from the ground up. They decide how power is distributed and what a society values most. So if you could world build one specific part of the current reality from scratch, what's the first rule or system you would rewrite to make the world feel more high vibe?
Gosh, this is a really good question. I'm terrible at plot. Oh God, I would say there was definitely going to be more stipulations on how to get into the government system. Not in a dystopian era, but I would say in order to keep things more economical and available to the majority of the population, so that at the base level we can start building that high vibe, I would say there would need to be different stipulations for how to become a government official and how long you would be able to do that for. And also you would be forced to actually take the political changes that you were saying you were going to, like held to a certain accountability. So accountability and government action, I guess you could call it.
I like that. Yeah, like we were saying about athletes with performance clauses, some
Right.
element of consistency, but yeah, medical records, and that's psychological too. We need to know, are you mentally fit? Are you able to do this job?
Right.
And then sure, financial compromises. There's so many things. I like that. That's a good answer.
Thank you.
When world building, lead with love. That's kind of my thing. It's far more powerful emotion and energy than fear. Love does conquer all. I just was going to share my final thoughts on this whole fantasy thing. I wrote them down though, just because
Okay.
I write little notes, but I may not remember. Okay. So the line between a fantasy spell and the actions we take in our daily lives is thinner than we think. Whether we're world building our own careers, navigating the magic of new technology, or deciding if we are the chosen one of our own story, which we should definitely be. The energy we put into the narrative is what truly shapes our reality. Fantasy doesn't just have to be an escape, as you were talking about earlier. It can be a training ground for our imaginations, which is one step, the very first step really, in the reality creation process. You are the author, you are the architect. The magic is already inside you.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, just the idea, like, we really are the authors of our own lives. And therefore, I love this thing about words. They say the reason they call it spelling is because words, when you speak, you cast spells. So I believe that. I've gone through my own situations where I've had to sort of reprogram my subconscious mind in order to overcome a potentially life-threatening medical condition. Another story we'll get into another time. But I had to do that. I had to go to this energetic place, deep in meditation, reconnect with nature. Like I said, all these things. And I wrote a bunch of affirmations that I just would listen to reprogram the subconscious mind to visualize getting physically healthy and healing. So that's something that really does. I love that idea about words. And again, you're such a a person who
Yeah.
appreciates words in novels and everything. So I thought you'd get like how powerful that can be for
Yeah.
all of us. The words we speak to ourselves and others really carry so much energy.
That's why you should never speak negatively about yourself in your head or otherwise. That was a really big one that I had to learn, was because the more you, like, even if you say like, gosh, I'm so stupid, like, you start to believe that. The power that words have on your psyche and others is crazy. So it's really important to think so positively. Like, that positive mindset, that high vibe mindset does change your entire outlook on yourself and others.
That sounds like a perfect place to end this episode. So thank you so much for joining me again today, Samantha. This has been incredibly enlightening and fun.
Of course. Thank you.
Before we peace out, is there anything you'd like to add? Any final words of wisdom? Anything you're promoting? Anything?
Gosh, well, I would really just like to say that I hope everybody starts to read fantasy novels, because yeah, they're a little bit more difficult to get into, but once you start to do it, it changes your entire outlook on life. I personally want to get a sword and learn how to use it. Yeah, just thank you so much for having me and for letting me speak about my nerd stuff.
Oh yeah, I love it. So much fun. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe and leave me a comment letting me know your thoughts on today's stories. Remember, every challenge is an opportunity. Until next time, namaste. What? Are you serious? Did my cat just go from the closet to the living room?
At a certain point, I was like, the cats were all behind me, like clawing at the backdrop, and I was like,